And on that note, I will turn to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Pat. I also attended the SMPO meeting, and we'll have, prior to which I'd had a discussion that morning with the interim executive director, Scott Walston. We'll have more to say about that in other business. Attended the SAC meeting. I will have to say that I thought going into that meeting that it might have been 1 month too soon. But I think I underappreciated the pace of activity that the subcommittees of the SAC have been operating under. They have chopped an awful lot of wood already. I'm sure they will continue to chop even more wood in the future. But subsequently, Kevin and I had a meeting with one of the subcommittees, and they felt that they had gotten a lot of very good value from it. And so I would therefore rate that as very much a success. The other thing that I will mention with respect to the business survey, I've now been in contact with or appeared in the offices of all but 2 of the ones that were assigned to me. I come to find out this was probably a very bad week to do that, as a large number of the actual owners were on vacation. I would have thought they would have been on vacation next week, but I was incorrect. The one comment that I did get from the few that I spoke with and or their managers, if you will, was generally very positive comments on parking. People think that this has improved access to parking. I heard one dissenting voice, but probably 7 or 8 mentioned to me unsolicited that they felt that that was working well. So I anecdotally passed that along. I think certainly the people that I spoke with also like the fact that we were attempting to reach out and meet with them in person. That was viewed as a good thing. I gave them one of my business cards and said, call me basically any time, and we'll spend 2 minutes or we'll spend 30 minutes, whatever's on your mind. And have not received any calls back, but I think that's a function of them being on vacation. So, so there's that. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilman Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 reports from me. First, last Wednesday, 6/17, I did attend Governor Stein's rural listening session. There was a roundtable and then a public forum as well. I attended the public forum at Sand Hills Community College. It was hosted by the NC Public Safety Secretary, Jeffrey Smith, and he was to receive the comments and then in turn forward them to Governor Stein and then respond to each person who did provide a comment. Some of the comments that I heard were one of our Taylortown leaders commented, actually requested his help in keeping zoning in the hands of their local leaders. They expressed some of the growth concerns and growth pressures that they've received over the last year or two, and the help they did receive did not seem to cover the need. 2 other comments that was around local zoning controls, keeping in the hands of local government, ETJ support, as well as another comment regarding the DOT road conditions and how busy they've been. I've also reached out to all of the businesses on my survey list. Had one good meeting today with great feedback, and then have another one on Friday, and then I'll be visiting each one as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ficklin.
Thank you. One of the things I hear most frequently from residents, businesses, visitors, I've heard it from those that I've surveyed as well for our business survey, is how beautiful Pinehurst is. Pinehurst is beautiful. It is beautiful naturally, but it is also beautiful because of the work of a whole lot of people. As you know, I'm part of the beautification committee by assignment through the council, and can tell you that it is one hard-working organization led by Janet Farrell, the chairman. They had their last meeting of the fiscal year at the end of in May. Although they have been busy ever since then, Manning Awards being one thing. Janet Farrell was kind enough to put together a list of their accomplishments during their 25-26 fiscal year. And I'm just going to read this list, and you'll understand why this is an amazing organization, along with a whole lot of people who support it. So during the fiscal year 25-26, historic plaques were installed for the Warren H. Manning Historic Plaque at Tufts Park, the Pinehurst Racetrack and Fair Barn Historic Plaque. Pine cone sculptures were also installed at the railroad trestle. Hopefully you've noticed those. They've also funded the plants for the rain garden, which was just installed this spring in the Village Arboretum. 7 different grants were awarded during the course of their fiscal year. 6 were commercial. Outstanding commercial appearance grant participation came from Pinehurst Elementary School Landscaping Bench and Little Library Project, KM Biggs replacement of 5 awnings, CF Smith Property Group Magnolia Place improved landscaping and dumpster enclosure, KM Biggs Buck Adams Building landscaping in front of the building and at the alleyway, Courtney Shoes Power Washing Exterior Refresh, Agora Landscaping HVAC Screening, and 1 award went in the public right-of-way at West Point Homeowners Association, storm drainage repair, lighting, and landscaping. In terms of publicity, several different articles have appeared throughout the course of the fiscal year. 1, A Finer Place in Which to Live, Keeping Warren Manning's Legacy Freshly Planted, which included highlighting Pinehurst Garden Club legacy with the village and spring and fall planting, and availability of the village planting guide. There was also a pilot article recognizing the Warren H. Manning Award recipients. Matter of fact, I think that was released today. Was it today, or yesterday, or today?
No, today.
Was it
Yeah,
today?
the release went out today. They took pictures yesterday.
Annual ongoing events consist of presenting the 2026 Manning Awards, which I just mentioned, a Pinehurst Christmas decorating contest, which included 12 commercial and 3 residential participants, maintained and readied 104 holiday wreaths for installation in the village, actively engaged with Pinehurst business partners, litter pickup, participated in the fall and spring events. And finally, an environmental activity which saved the life of the live oak at Cherokee and Azalea. So that's the activity that the Beautification Committee has been involved in. But I can honestly tell you that we could also include all of the Pinehurst Garden Clubs, and special thanks to Kevin Brewer and his crew, Mike Apke and Carlton Cole for all of their support throughout the year. So one other thing to mention to you, Pat had mentioned that we had the Pinehurst Business Partners meeting last night, which we did at Sea Cups, where we got free cupcakes. And I was wondering if that had anything to do with Pat's appearing, but I guess not, right? No.
I like their cupcakes anyway.
Anyway, delightful meeting, and one of their events is coming up, of course, that being the 4th of July parade. Also, I'm going to show you this very busy poster that you'll be seeing around town. The Mira Foundation is supporting the Fair Barn Mira Music Fest on September 12th of 2026. Put it on your calendars. It's going to be at the Fair Barn. It's a wonderful event with music, tacos, tequila, and all sorts of different activities, both inside and outside. Included in that event will be the winners of the 2026 Bourbon Raffle. And you will see information about this throughout town from now on. All of these will be posted. There's a bourbon raffle. First, second, and third prizes include numerous bottles of apparently the best bourbons you can find anywhere in the world. So included, I hear from my Kentucky relatives, there's even a Pappy Van Winkle in there. I don't know who Pappy is, but apparently he's very famous, and so are all these others. So lots to look forward to both in July and August and September. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barb. Councilman Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of participating in the North Carolina Enforcement Accreditation Network review of the Pinehurst Police Department. And I can tell you, as Doug indicated, it was a very positive experience, and I expect that we'll be receiving their accreditation with flying colors. On June 11th, I sent a letter to Senator McGinnis and Representative Jackson expressing my strong opposition to the provision in Senate Bill 876 that would convert Moore County's municipal elections from nonpartisan to partisan contests, and we'll see where that develops. As has been mentioned, the Senior Advisory Committee working groups have been working very closely, and the subcommittees have been meeting. We thank Fire Chief Clausen for his time, data, and energy in meeting with our safety group. We held the joint SAC-NAC collaborative meeting, and what's really been nice about that is the offline emails and communications going on between members of those two committees that have rippled out from the more formal meeting. So I expect this is going to set the stage for ongoing and productive collaboration. U.S. Kids is in full swing. I'm serving as a course captain on one of the courses, just to give you a framework for how the impact this has on Pinehurst, which I know is not lost on any of you. 2,500 players are expected from 55 countries, and 44 alumni from U.S. Kids played in the recently concluded U.S. Open. So really, it's quite a pipeline for talent. And then today, the Healthy Aging section of the Senior Advisory Committee met with the Givens Tufts bookstore. We have agreed to organize a section on healthy aging that will be available in a designated section of the bookstore, and the members of the SAC will be working with the volunteers at the bookstore to curate their collections and make good information available to the public. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That concludes reports. Let's go down to the consent agenda. All items that will be discussed here are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held unless requested by a member of the Village Council. We'll be approving 3 minutes, the regular meeting of June 9th, the work session meeting of June 9th, and the closed session meetings of June 9th. Comments or motion?
Just a comment before a motion. I had suggested a possible amendment to the minutes, which I just want to say formally I am withdrawing based on Shannon's commentary. I do think that the sentence in question is not written nearly as clearly as it should be, but I have no doubt that what we actually approved, the resolution we approved, is the intent of council, and Dana may or may not change that going forward. But so there's no formal proposal to amend the minutes, at least not from me.
Okay. Other considerations?
I move to approve all items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion concluded. Thank you. We'll now go to proclamations, which we have 2. First one deals with the United States of America. It's a proclamation regarding July 4th. And so let me read this to you, everybody. Whereas on July 4th, 2026, the United States of America celebrates its 250th anniversary, marking the adoption of the Declaration of Independence and the founding of our nation. And whereas the founders established a nation built upon timeless principles that all people are created equal and are endowed with inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas these foundational ideals have guided America's enduring legacy of democratic governance, resilience, and civic achievement over 2.5 centuries. And whereas our local community has played a vital role in upholding these values, honoring our shared history, and contributing to the growth, diversity, and prosperity of our nation. And whereas this milestone provides an opportunity to reflect on our history, celebrate our achievements, and recommit ourselves to the ideals of freedom, justice, and unity for all future generations, I therefore proclaim July 4th, 2026 as the day to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States of America in the village of Pinehurst, and encourage all residents to participate in local commemorative events, reflect upon the sacrifice of those who came before us, and work together to build an even stronger and more united future. Thank you. Let us go on to 2026 Parks and Recreation Month proclamation. Okay. Whereas parks and recreation are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the village of Pinehurst, whereas parks and recreation promote time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health and encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas parks and recreation programming and education activities, such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education, are critical to childhood development. And whereas parks and recreation increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community and are essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. Whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, therefore now we here in Pinehurst proclaim July 26th is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the village of Pinehurst. Congratulations, Pinehurst. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, I just want to quickly note that Angie Wisnett, our Parks and Recreation Director, is here. I want to thank her and all of her staff for the great job, and glad that we can recognize July as a special month to recognize all that they do to help our community.
Thank you, Angie. Congratulate you, your staff also. All right, we'll now go to item 6 on the agenda, and that deals with any public comments. If there are any public comments, if no one has signed up for a public comment, if there's anybody who is here and would like to make a public comment, they could come forth now at this moment, not regardless of whether they signed up or not. Okay. See none, that will conclude the public comments portion of our agenda, and we'll go to item 7, which is a public hearing. Doug, do you want to lead us into that?
Should we enter the public hearing first?
Yes, we should. Thank you.
I
Mayor Pro
move-
Tem, you have a motion to make?
I move to enter into the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion is adopted? Okay. Now, we can discuss the public hearing, unless Alex wants, or you want to introduce Alex?
Yeah, I think Alex and Maria will take the lead on introducing this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Doug. It'll be our pleasure. I am joined by Senior Planner Maria Klein, as Maria has been the primary staff point of contact for this particular application, so she is without a doubt the subject matter expert here. So, leading into the public hearing item, it is to consider a major site plan request, and this is for the construction of a 3-story medical office building with associated site infrastructure at the property addressed as 1 Regional Drive. Subject properties are identified as Moore County Parcel ID number 000-24674, and then 820, 821, 822, and 823. The applicant is V3 on behalf of Pinehurst Medical Clinic, and the owner of record is listed as Pinehurst Medical Group, LLC. To get your bearings on the location, we have US 15501 here to the right or east of the map. The affected parcels are highlighted in this light shade of blue here. The existing Pinehurst Medical Clinic Heather Glen site situated just up Regional Drive, And to the south and across, we have the hospital campus. So major site plans, why are we here tonight discussing a major site plan, and why are we in a public hearing? So they are currently defined in the PDO that we are operating under now as any non-residential development or multifamily development that does not exceed 3 acres of land disturbing activity. This particular application, and I believe I am on record of saying this once before, but I guarantee you this will be the last time. This is the last application that we're reviewing under our old PDO, which that threshold of disturbance was 2 acres. So this application came in right before we adopted, you guys adopted, and had the formal effective date of the new PDO. So the major site plan review process, again, is prescribed in the PDO. I've already said that a few times, but for those in the audience who may not know what that stands for, that's our Pinehurst Development Ordinance. Any requests for major site plans and associated material are first reviewed by the village planner and the Technical Review Committee, or the TRC, which is made up of other subject matter experts in the field of engineering, utilities, fire, and of course planning. After the staff and the Technical Review Committee sort of review for compliance and release that to move forward to the next step, that includes a review and a public hearing by our Planning and Zoning Board, in which they receive public comment and formulate a formal recommendation to you all as the Village Council on the request. The next step is the step in which we're in this evening, where you guys hold a public hearing, consider those recommendations, receive further public comment, if any, and you get to act on the proposal. And the final step is fully detailed construction plans, which are submitted to the Technical Review Committee for final approval of that site plan before development can commence. So staff provides a recommendation along with the Technical Review Committee based on the general compliance with adopted standards for major site plan requests. We'll hear that a little bit in the staff presentation tonight, and that's purposeful. And that is because there are 3 types of land use decisions. I know you all have heard me say that before. These type of decisions for major site plan reviews are administrative, so it asks you as Village Council to kind of put on a staff or administrative hat instead of your typical legislative hat where you adopt the rules and regulations for the village. It is certainly not legislative or quasi-judicial. Those administrative decisions are rooted in adopted objective standards. It is typically performed by the village staff. Public hearings are typically not required. However, again, our PDO requires such. And with these type of applications, if compliance is determined, approval must be granted. Any recommendations for changes or any other action aside from an approval has still got to be based on adopted objective standards. So those standards of review are housed in our regulatory documents. So that's our PDO and our Engineering Standards and Specifications Manual, or ESSM, and any other applicable state and local regulations. The sort of controlling submittal format, if you will, for major site plans and a general concept plan is listed in Appendix C of the PDO. And that general concept plan and other supplemental material that is requested at that initial application is intended, again, to convey that general compliance, hence the term general concept plan, with those adopted design standards. It's not intended to be a fully designed or engineered plan to date. Those very specific documents and additional detail is provided during that final stage of review by the TRC. So you see this flow chart, and this highlights where we are in this process for the review. So we've gone everywhere from the initial application to the first review by the TRC, where we have issued any recommendations or needed design changes based on the standards. That continues until it gets forwarded to Planning and Zoning Board. And then here we are again with the Village Council consideration, and then the last 2 steps before any authorization for construction can begin. So that's worth noting that whatever outcome, if any, there are tonight by Village Council on the request does not authorize construction to commence on the site after that conclusion. All right, and now we'll turn it over to Maria to discuss a little bit more of the specifics on the actual site plan request.
All right, so Alex gave you all the details on what site plans are and the decisions, so let's get into the fun stuff. What is this plan? So the applicant gave their initial submittal for TRC to review in November of 2025. They have done 4 resubmittals since, so that's going through that whole process of they submit stuff, TRC reviews it, we send them comments, and they resubmit. And TRC has worked with them to make sure the plans are compliant and have enough detail before we schedule the required public hearings. Their final submittal was April 29th of 2026. So all the review comments are satisfied. TRC is prepared to review construction documents following your approval. So what is the site consist of? It's proposing a 42,515 square foot, 3-story building with 262 parking spaces. The height of the building would be 35 feet, which is the maximum height allowed in the office and professional district. It is 5 parcels, 2 of which currently have parking on them, and the remaining 3 parcels are vacant. All those parcels will need to be recombined before they can get site plan approval, and it would contain a total of 4.25 acres. There is road frontage along Regional Drive and Page Road, approximately 869 feet on Regional Drive, 217 along Page Road. They did submit general information and location of proposed signage that they'd like to have. Any additional sign detail would be required prior to any final site plan approval, and it would have to meet the requirements of the PDO. The area is zoned office and professional, which does allow the medical offices and clinic uses. Driveway access, there is one driveway on Regional Drive. There is another on Page Road. They did conduct a traffic impact analysis that indicated no additional road improvements were necessary and that only minor increases and delays would be anticipated, and NCDOT did also review that and approve the TIA. They're proposing 70% impervious surface, which is the maximum allowed in the OP zoning district. The stormwater will be managed on-site with 2 underground detention systems, and the project's not in a flood zone, but it is in the Nicks Creek watershed. So here you have a zoning map. Oh, my pointer's very small. So here are the parcels outlined in blue, and you can see they're right in the center of that office and professional zoning district. All the other uses around them are offices and medical offices. Here are
Question,
the
Maria? Can I put that slide back and just want to ask a question for a minute? Is the space above the 5 parcels up there on Regional, is that parking now?
up here?
The very top.
Yeah, right
parcel
there.
Yes,
And that'll remain parking?
yes.
Thank you.
Actually, the next 2 slides she has probably would have, you've got that question, so now you'll have those slides, you can kind of picture that a little bit better. So here's existing conditions here.
So here you can see those 2 parcels at the end of the 5 have existing parking on them, which continues over here. Yep. And then these 3 parcels are vacant currently. And here is what they are proposing. So you'd have the building over here near the corner of Regional and Page Road with some parking next to it and all along the opposite side. You can see the driveway accesses along Regional and Page Road here. They would be required to put sidewalks along both roads. And you can see in the dotted lines here and over here, those will be the underground stormwater detention systems. Here are their elevations. So here's the front or the west elevation. And again, you can see the 35-foot height, which we take from the front facade of the building, from the ground to the highest point in the building. And here is the east or the rear elevation. There you can see the 3 stories. And we have our left north elevation and the south. So on June 4th, Planning and Zoning had a public hearing. There was not much discussion necessary. There was no comments from the public, and the board did voted unanimously to recommend approval to you. And now I will hand it back over to Alex.
And so just a few slides to conclude staff's presentation. So let you know what your options are as village council with this request before you tonight. Of course, we're in the public hearing, so you're checking that box. You will receive public comments during this public hearing at whichever portion that time that village council seems appropriate. And you'll consider the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board, the staff, and TRC. After conducting the public hearing, you can approve the major site plan. You can choose to approve the major site plan with conditions. It is important to note that any conditions that you choose to place on that approval must be related to compliance with some sort of adopted standard for them to revise or change something that is obviously related to being compliant with something adopted in the PDO. You can deny, however, that denial must be shown on the record and stated in the motion that it is being denied based on not being compliant with an adopted standard or regulation. And before you conduct a public hearing, if the village council chooses to, they may continue the public hearing if they agree, if you guys agree that additional information is needed or that the hearing does need to be continued to further determine compliance of the request. So the staff recommendation, the general concept plan and all the material, as Maria stated, through 4 different reviews has been conducted by the TRC. And on behalf of the TRC, the village planning staff here before you have deemed the application and material to be compliant with adopted standards at this stage. And so, since compliance is the name of the game here, and it has been determined, we do recommend village council approve the request before you this evening. And so again, to conclude, we've got a major site plan request for Pinehurst Medical Clinic, 3-story office building with associated site infrastructure at 1 Regional Drive. Again, it's kind of a unique position for elected bodies to conduct a administrative decision, but that's the type of decision that's put before you based on our PDO. And staff and the Planning and Zoning Board have recommended approval. So Maria and I are able to answer any questions on the material we've been able to present to you. Keep in mind that we don't want to steal too much of the design team's thunder. If there's any big specifics on how they tend to address any of the infrastructure or site development there, understanding too that there are a few things that are still to be designed and are still being worked out, which they have obviously been planning and prepping for, so it might be a good opportunity for dialogue with them for that.
So if you can answer all our questions, we will not have to discuss anything with Bob Kuntz, is that correct? Okay.
Sounds like a win, right?
I just have a couple.
Win-win for everybody, I don't know, including him.
I just have a couple of
Yeah, I
questions.
second that.
Okay. And these are relatively easy. All the parking, by the way, visually, it looks like it's a lot more parking than it is building as you look at this on the screen, which is fine. But am I right that the parking is all single level? There's not a second level to the parking anywhere?
Correct.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Mr. Mayor, in regards to parking, so the last 2 lots on the left are already parking, so they're just reconfiguring those.
Right.
And this is both employee and patient parking.
Now, there's a little bit of history on that, these further west parcels here. So back in, I believe it was 2018 to 2019, the Pinehurst Medical Clinic and design team came before the village staff as they were experiencing, some parking issues, not having enough parking for their patients that were coming in and getting that service. So they expanded the parking. So they're already overparked, if you will, for the uses that are currently there on that property. But to tie in and integrate better with the new development, they're going to need to redo and make sure that those further parking spaces do integrate a little bit better with the new development.
My next question is, as you go further up Regional past the parking that's in place, is that building also a Pinehurst Medical building, or is?
It
So
is.
that's,
Mhm.
okay. And I had and my third question has to do with the Page Road issue there. You said that was, what, about 200 feet? You gave a number to the length of that.
217.
217 feet. And there is an entrance and exit there, it seems like. my dentist is right across the street, so I know that area. And I'm just curious, if I'm driving, I guess that would be north on Page, I can make a left-hand turn into this new development, okay? So I'm assuming this meets all the requirements of necessary lead time and to
Yeah,
make
so-
a turn across the road there. It is, the reason I raise this is it's become a pretty busy road there because it's a shortcut road for some folks. And obviously this will add more traffic, but
Yeah, of course.
that's a given.
So Page Road is a DOT owned and maintained road. So DOT was sort of the reviewer of the traffic impact analysis that was prepared by the design team, which gave a pretty detailed report. There's a copy in the council agenda packet. They kind of indicated how many trips per day, what that trip distribution would expect to be like there. And as you see, that access that you're mentioning across Page Road is a bit offset from the proposed entrance here for this development on Page Road. But with what capture is expected already with that existing development that you mentioned there across the road, that with this development, there wouldn't be any major impacts. That's what the TIA concluded, and DOT concurred with that. Obviously, the DOT is well familiar with this area with
Right.
a lot of the improvements that have been taken.
So there's not going to be a left-hand turn lane to get into the new development here?
No, and
There'll
they
there'll
did
just
not
be,
recommend.
you'd stop and make a
They
left turn?
didn't recommend any additional turn lanes or anything to be provided.
And
Yep.
DOT's fine with it? I'm fine with it. I said that, if DOT's fine with something, I'm fine with it. I just want the record to be clear. Okay.
I'm not sure you want to generalize that
I
statement.
just caught myself saying that phrase. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, let's,
Go ahead,
let's,
Sean.
let's stay on traffic just for a moment. Obviously, we're involved both with the SMPO, that's looking at traffic projections out to 2055. We've been looking at them with respect to the circle out to 2050. The TIA only goes to 2027, and I didn't see any projection. Is that not required?
The TIA is only generated by what this development is expected to incur from.
Today.
Not for projections of everything, but, so they take into account what they have now, for what they known, for what the development and the trips would increase, and so what that would do. I don't think it's required for, and I'm sure that the design team has a better response to someone who's, this is what they do. And they can probably answer better to what is required for what data to be put in.
But from our standpoint, from the TRC standpoint, you got what you need. DOT signed off on
Correct.
this. They did a TIA, done and dusted.
That's right. We had a few questions, and we got our comment responses that satisfied us at this stage.
It's interesting, that, as you know, they're going to widen 15501 north of the circle. That's already in the works. There are growth projections for traffic there. Some of that will come down Page Road, having nothing to do with this building, in addition to whatever new demand is generated by whatever goes into this building. So that's just interesting. On stormwater, these dotted areas, these are basically cisterns or big holes in the ground. The water goes down there. It's not connected to anything else to carry the water away.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good general characterization of what they are. Again, they're underground systems. They're a little more sophisticated than maybe how that, they were characterized there with that statement. But yes, they're underground. They're going to be, well, I don't know the design engineers here, that without getting into too much detail, as you've seen from the topography on the general concept plan, there's some slope from west to east. This last area here, this last parcel here, that's going to be the area where it's going to be a little more tricky to manage. So there quite a bit of off-site water that's coming there too, and obviously they're generating quite a bit of impervious surface. So the underground systems are intended to handle what's coming to the site, and then handle also what is expected to generate, and then release that at a standard that is above what at least at a minimum or above what we require.
That's what I'm getting at. This seems analogous in some sense to the new lot that was built behind the Carolina Hotel. And I know there have been situations where even with the overflow that they planned, it was insufficient and water was coming in places it was not intended. And this is more for clarification as opposed to an objection. What is sort of the standard 25-year storm? At what point is this simply not sufficient and water's going to go places that it is not intended to go.
Sure, so our adopted standard, which is all we can hold an applicant to, at least for now, obviously we're reviewing our engineering standards and prepare an update for you hopefully at the end of the summer. So our standard now is a 10-year, 24-hour storm event. So,
That's what I
and that's a rate, that's not a quantity of holding water on that site. So that's that rate being released to a downstream property.
I think in the original site plan, if I read the topographical map correctly, the east side of this has, and when I drove by, there's a decent amount of slope there. I don't remember how many feet it is, what each line was worth, but
See it right here, but again, this is the existing conditions.
Right.
Obviously, it will be graded.
they're going to have to do, I would infer there's fairly substantial grading going on here to create a level.
Correct.
So I'm not misreading that. There is slopage there
Yes.
that has to be
Yep,
addressed.
you can see the contour lines there, right here.
And this will essentially be all on one level. It will not be stepped down in tiers. There won't,
I mean, I think if you're looking at it from Regional Drive, you're definitely there's still gonna be some slope there. Obviously, you can even see, again, just general elevations here. You're looking, even at the building, you're gonna be able to see that there's still some slope to the rear, right?
and if there were to be runoff from this for whatever, we get a 50-year storm or whatever, it's simply going to spill out onto Regional Drive or Page Road and then go downhill from there to whatever those lead to.
Follow the path of least resistance, yeah.
I think that's it. Thanks.
Jeremy?
Yeah, just two clarifying questions. So the sidewalks that'll be installed, not familiar with the area, will they connect to any further sidewalks? Will they
So, again, there's kind of some up here where some of the existing parking is that kind of ties into the Heather Glen campus. There's some there, but there's none here along Page or along this stretch of Regional, as again, it's largely undeveloped.
Thanks, Ken, if you said that previously. For buffer requirements that will be required, can you give an idea of which class and then maybe a little layman terms of what that would
There are
be?
no buffer requirements for
So no
development.
buffer requirements at all in this
Correct.
development?
There will be parking area landscaping, parking perimeter, and internal, sort of canopy parking that's required.
Okay, but none around the perimeter, none around the building, that
Nope,
type of thing?
because
as
again,
well?
it's all, if you see the zoning map, everything is like for like zoning, like for like development. If a medical office was proposed right up against a residential use, there would be a planted buffer required only along that area. But as everything here is, again, like for like, as you see, office, medical office, and then, again, the hospital development here, there is no planted buffer requirement.
Thank you.
Jeremy, any other questions?
Oh, no, thank you, thank you.
Barb? No. Kevin, any questions? Okay. I think we've concluded our questions for Alex and Maria. Is the consensus, do we want to hear from the, I mean, we're going to obviously seek any public comments, but do we want to hear from the
I would say from
applicants?
myself, I've been told that I don't have an option. I'm going to approve this.
Right.
I also like, look, the designs, they look fine. I have
Yeah.
no reason to, I would be happy, I don't want to say I would be happy not to hear from them. I have no need to hear
Yeah,
from them.
I'm in that same boat, but I
Unless they
just wanna-
want to.
just want to cover with everybody else. Okay. Let me then ask, we're still in the public hearing, so I'll ask if there are any individuals who would like to come forth and speak in favor of this proposal or in opposition to this proposal. Please come forward. So be. Hearing and seeing none. Okay, then obviously a motion to close the public hearing might be appropriate.
I think we take the decision in the public hearing. Is that correct or not correct?
Do either.
Okay.
I would follow the template that I guess has already been provided for you, if that's options.
The
for-
decision is inside the public hearing on this, so.
It is, okay.
I move to approve the staff recommendation for the proposed major site plan for Pinehurst Medical Clinic located at 1 Regional Drive and further identified as PID numbers 000-24674, 1 quadruple 0820, 1 quadruple 0821, 1 quadruple 0822, and 1 quadruple 0823.
You have a motion?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. Congratulations. Thank you to the applicants, and
Look at the disappointment on
I
their
know.
faces. They're all geared up.
the place is clearing out.
They had
Okay.
charts, they had diagrams.
Okay, thank you very much, and good luck. It looks like a good-looking building, so.
Yeah.
Just as a point of order, we will still need to adjourn the public hearing.
Yes, I
Okay.
move to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Okay. Hold on. Let us proceed to resolutions. First one is 2627, appointing Mr. Sean Rowan as the Neighborhood Advisory Committee representative for the Pinewald area. Is there anything we need to know, or Doug?
Just, Sean is unavailable to be here tonight, but he was appointed by the POA for the neighborhood, and we're happy to have him join the group.
Yeah, I met him at the last meeting.
I met him after the NACSAC meeting as
Yeah.
well. and-
Anybody have any questions, or are they okay moving ahead with this? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 26-27, appointing Mr. Sean Rowan as Neighborhood Advisory Committee representative for the Pinewald area, effective June 23rd, 2026, with said term expiring June 30th, 2029.
You have a motion?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Sean is on the NAC. Let's go to Resolution B, 2628, adopting the updated Village Council Code of Ethics. This is a project we've been working on for a couple of months, and we have a final draft. It's been viewed by our village attorney. I'll see if people have any comments beyond what the red line version is, which I think we've all reviewed prior to this. And I have one small edit, but I turn it over to my colleagues.
I have a question I think, Doug, maybe you're best able to answer, because I just don't remember it from the conversation last time, but I'm thinking we went through the same thing on HPC. I believe that shall is a sort of a mandatory direction and should is a recommendation, if you will.
Yes.
I would therefore have some suggested edits here.
Where?
The first one, I think council members shall be guided. I don't think it's optional for us to be guided by these principles. Guide introduces some flexibility anyway. And I'll pick number 5, I think should be shall as well. I'm trying to think of a circumstance under which I should be allowed to treat someone in an uncivil way. I mean, I view that as mandatory. And were I to violate that, there could be repercussions.
Okay. Go ahead, keep going. That sound, to me, those sound like reasonable edits. Does anybody have any other
I
thoughts?
can live with,
There was some conversation about this shall-should thing when we had Dan here.
but
There
I
was.
didn't think you would
And I
take,
believe his recommendation, for some reason, of course, which I don't remember, was like a legal reason.
Well,
why it
yeah,
should-
so when we discussed it at the last meeting with Dan, he said, you know, shall is a very strong statement, so maybe some of these we could change to should. Because, you know, for example, if you say, shall treat people with respect, someone could come up and say, oh, you didn't treat me with respect, and so you broke this code of ethics. I also understand what John is saying is like, yes, but we should, not should, it should be stronger than should, we shall treat people with
he
respect.
seemed to have gone through and struck all of the shalls and made them all shoulds, and I can live with most of them.
No, he didn't. At the very end, he has us shall review this code of
Yeah,
ethics.
any that were.
I saw that.
Any that were statutorily required, we kept as shall.
Right, well, so compliance with law, they shall be guided not only by the letter of the law, but by its spirit. He's changed that one. I don't think that's optional.
Right, yeah.
It could
And
be
I don't-
subject to interpretation as to whether we did or we didn't. I understand that.
Right.
I think that was his point, if I recall to Doug's comment there, was his whole point was, my shall could be different than your shall, so.
And I think that either way, it's a good document. So if we would go shall, should, in a few places. I don't think it overall changes the quality. I think I'm okay with any adjustments.
No,
like that.
a lot of these, like the public communication, that's so much subject to interpretation that I think should is perfectly appropriate.
Okay.
So I just identified the
You
three
made-
that I think should be
What was the
shall.
third? I see, I mentioned two. What was your third one?
The third one was, again, on the third page, in their public and digital communications, council members shall conduct themselves with civility, refrain from personal attacks. If we make that should, I can attack somebody in an op-ed in the paper or whatever, and those are the three that I had. The rest I can live with. And the only other question that I had was he has taken out the section, in section 2, about having a affirmative obligation to disclose conflicts of interest. That may be covered by, if we are going to approve introducing that into the opening language, and if that's the case, then I can live with the amendment as proposed.
John, are you specifically referring to this section 2, integrity and independence right here? Is this the section 2 that you meant?
Yes, the second clause that has been struck. I'm happy to take that out if we're going to introduce into the opening comments, as happens many other places where Pat would say, do any of you have a conflict with any of our agenda items tonight?
Yeah.
And I think we're fine if we want to not delete that second paragraph. I think it was a little bit redundant from what was in the first paragraph. That's why it was removed.
I'm sorry, that's correct. Yes, I agree with that. Thank you, Doug. That's
Okay.
fine.
Then I'm okay with that.
I have no further comments.
Redlined out. Okay, so you have made 1, 2, 3.
Three shalls that I would prefer to
shalls.
retain.
I have no problem with those three. And all the others would remain as recommended.
Yep.
Anybody have any other items? I have one small, I think it's just a typo, but if you go to section 1, paragraph 2, after the phrase decisions, comma, or governmental actions, I think we need a period, not a comma after that.
Yes,
So,
I think the period was struck and shouldn't have.
yeah. So that's my one contribution. But does anybody have anything else to add? And then we could actually maybe adopt what's before us. Any other comments? None? I do think this is a good step for the village of Pinehurst. It's been some 15 years since we've updated a code of ethics. We haven't had the opportunity to undertake a thorough review, of which this was. This wasn't a cursory look at our code of ethics. We discussed this in, I think, 3 council meetings, and we exchanged various drafts and received the guidance from our village attorney. So I think we have a good document that should guide us, to say the least. And I think if someone wants to recommend that we adopt this with the few amendments just made, I think that would be a good step. I would say once we do that, we should highlight this on our website at the appropriate time so that people realize that we have taken this action. And I compliment my colleagues, all who have contributed to this document during the course of the last several months.
And I would, again, like to thank both Kevin and Jeremy for having brought this up in the first place. Either Barb and I, maybe we didn't pay attention, or they didn't cover this when we went through the same training, but I think it's been a very useful
It
improvement
was
to the way
in-
we do business.
Yeah, it was in our orientation handbook, the much shorter, much less detailed. This is a enormously improved and great document, I think.
Well,
Mr. Mayor,
job well done. Yes,
may I
Kevin.
request that Councilman Hooper bring forward this resolution?
I was going to do the same for you.
I think we're running into an ethical situation here, and I'm not sure how we resolve this.
I'm happy to, Kevin, if you provide a second, but I'll make a statement as well. So we're in the training, and our own community was used as an example. And Kevin, when we were discussing the ethics, and Kevin brought up this idea, he said maybe there's something that we can do about that. So really, this was all initiated and started by Kevin. I was happy to be there with him, and as well as maybe start the first draft after with Kevin. But he began that and said maybe there's something that we can do. So I commend him wholeheartedly. I move to approve Resolution 26-28 as amended, with the comments amended, adopting the updated Village Council Code of Ethics effective June 23rd, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Councilman Fitzpatrick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted. Congratulations, council. Thank you, particularly Kevin and Jeremy. It's a very healthy exercise for us. We'll now go to regular business. We have one item on regular business, and I'll turn to the village manager to, and also our village controller to lead us here. Go ahead.
Dana, I'll let you handle this.
All right, so this, while we do not come to you often with an agenda item like this, it is somewhat routine in nature. So within the general statutes, there are some very prescriptive requirements when it comes to purchasing to ensure that there's competition. There are several exceptions, though, that can be used. We tend to use the cooperative purchasing consortiums. That is an exception to where we do not have to do our own competitive bidding. That is the one that we use most often. Another exception that is allowed is when there is a sole source for a purchase. And that is the situation that we have for you this evening. The statutes say that an item is considered sole source if it meets at least one of the 3 criteria listed there. The police department wants to purchase 2 omnidirectional tactical camera systems, which were described more fully in the memo from Chief Webb. He was not able to be here tonight. If you have questions about the particular items being purchased, you can direct those to him. But this technology is patented. There are no other products in the market that do the same things that these cameras can do. And therefore, it kind of meets the first 2 criteria where performance, more so than price, performance competition is not available, and the product is only available from one source. And so based on those criteria, I did some searching of my own as well, and I agree that this is a sole source situation. These statutes, very timely discussion of shall versus should. The statutes say that the governing body shall approve any sole source exceptions that are used to ensure that there's transparency about that and that you're aware that we are using this exception. So that is why we have this item before you tonight.
Dana, is there not a threshold requirement here? It says, is any?
Yes, there is not a dollar threshold. Since the statutes say shall, that is something we could consider for updating our purchasing policy, that if the governing board only wants to see sole source exceptions over a certain dollar threshold, but we don't currently have a delegation of authority for sole source, since the statutes indicate that the governing body should or shall.
My personal experience is that it makes sense that we have some threshold in the future. So we should take that up at the appropriate time. Obviously not tonight, but.
Yeah. I mean, these are relatively small dollars.
Right.
And hopefully for a piece of equipment that we will never have to use. But as the chief described in his memo, these could be quite helpful in a hostage situation or somewhere where someone is, barricaded themselves in. Something we never want to see happen, but this might be able to help us address it for the safety of those involved as well as our officers.
And this is a one-time purchase? There's not a licensing renewal with this or anything?
Correct, that's my understanding. It's a one-time purchase. There is not a software subscription that goes along with it.
Okay. I have no further questions. Anybody else on the council?
I have no objection to the proposal itself. I was trying to understand how mechanically this would work. If someone is barricaded in, do we have to open the door and roll this in?
Yes.
But I understand what the concept is, and I assume that, I have great faith in the chief. If he didn't think this could actually be used, then this wouldn't be before us, so. I don't know, Carlton, do you have any? Okay.
I would state that if the chief was here tonight, I'd probably prolong the meeting by 15 minutes worth of questions of how these things work. So it's a good thing. So,
We'll tell him not to come in future meetings.
Good pass on his part.
Yes, yes.
so.
Okay. All righty. I will need a motion.
I move to approve awarding the purchase of 2 omnidirectional tactical camera systems from Bounce Imaging based on the sole source exception granted by the North Carolina General Statute 143-129E6 and sole source justifications provided by Chief Webb and Bounce Imaging.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pat, I would tag on that maybe we could ask staff to come up, formulate some policy with respect to a threshold
Wait,
amount
yeah, I think
at some point in the
At-
future.
Yeah, as appropriate, maybe with the,
Right,
next
when we,
budget or whatever.
each year we do our budget and our purchasing thresholds.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do that. So you probably won't see it for another year.
that's fine. Okay, now we go to other business. I do have one item in particular. I had one question that I could get answered. Remember the recipe book? How is our recipe book doing? Do we have any?
Yeah, I can follow up on that. I know that we were having some issues with getting recipes and then,
But we had a bunch.
yeah, so I'll follow up with staff and see where that is.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, because we talked about it enough, I think we ought to
Yeah,
at
we
least
want-
report to the folks on that.
Yep.
Okay. On a different topic, nowhere near related to recipes, I wanted to give a little brief update on 2 things. One on the a little bit specifically on the traffic circle, and then one on the SMPO meeting that I chaired the other day. And I'm obviously, after I conclude my brief remarks, others may want to discuss this, particularly Mr. Taylor and Mr. Hooper. We have been in touch with representatives from the governor and lieutenant governor's office since we wrote that letter a month or so ago. And so communication lines have been opened, and John will discuss later about any upcoming meetings. I think it's worthwhile to note that we've been consistent in wanting to maintain 3 issues: safety, property rights, and aesthetics. Those are the primary interests that we've put our sort of hook on as we seek to improve the 70-year-old traffic circle that's never had an automobile fatality in it. And a recent pilot article, editorial, I guess, quoted a local area Board of Transportation members stating that fatalities are an important measure, but not the sole measure when they go into analysis of roadway construction projects. And we think the 70 years of data of the absence of fatalities is a very noteworthy item. So I want those residents who have contacted some of us, and probably all of us, I just wanted them to hear that from the mayor. And the pilot also made a suggestion that perhaps the governor would lock the parties in a room until they come out with an agreement. And I just want to go on the record. I'm not opposed to that. Wherever this locked room is, the Village of Pinehurst is willing to participate.
Spoken by someone who may not be locked in that room.
Yes,
but-
I understand. It's totally by design. And so with that, I wanted to, I know John and Jeremy probably have some comments because they have been in locked rooms with the NCDOT. So go ahead, John, I'll turn it over to you.
2 things. First of all, Jeremy and I were supposed to have met with the DOT yesterday. DOT requested a postponement. That meeting has been rescheduled for a week from tomorrow, July 1st at 9:30 up in Carthage. And that was because there were some people that they wanted involved on their side who, for whatever reason, couldn't make it. So we would anticipate I've had several email exchanges with the project manager for this project from DOT and have actually spoken on the phone. We've had a very nice dialogue, and hopefully we'll be ready to go. Doug, I guess I should have mentioned it, 9:30 Wednesday morning.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. The second interesting thing to me, and this came up at the SMPO meeting, the county has been working for some time. They're actually scheduled to have had this, I think, third or fourth quarter of last year, on an update to their transportation demand model. And for a variety of reasons, they've had difficulty, as I understand it, getting the model to match up with the data that is being fed into the model. Some of that data originated with all of the municipalities in the SMPO, Pinehurst and all the other ones, doing a bottoms-up forecast from out to 2029, and then the SMPO governing board adopting a growth rate from 2029 out to 2055. And any of you who have attended those meetings or have heard about them, there was an explicit decision after discussion at both the technical coordinating committee level and the governing board level to adopt a growth rate that is candidly much higher than either growth rate of population in the county has been. And that was done deliberately because part of what the SMPO has to do is to compete for funds for, first of all, prioritize projects that they want to get done, and then compete for funding for them. And I think as a result, by the way, the county commissioners went through the same exercise for that portion of Moore County, which is not in the SMPO, because the DOT looks at the county as a whole. They don't bifurcate that. And the county commissioners also adopted a growth rate. They used 1.5%. The SMPO has used 1.75%. The long-term growth rate of population in Moore County is closer to 1.3%. And based on the most recent change in projections from the state demographer, that number going forward is forecasted a little under 1%, 0.96 if I recall. So you've got a situation where these two governmental entities have adopted a growth rate for a particular set of reasons which are higher than purely the numbers might suggest. And as a result, when you feed those numbers into the transportation demand model, it is forecasting some significant issues on all of the major roads in the county, not just the traffic circle, but NC 5, 15501, US 1. I'm not sure if I'm missing any there. And my sense in talking with various people is they don't really know what to do about this. The people who designed the model do so with the best of intentions. I believe that 100%. They are trying to come up with the best formula, if you will, that they can. And then that formula runs into a set of numbers which are admittedly not what people believe the real number is, but a number that they're adopting for a different reason, valid as that reason may be. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they end up resolving it. This could be a small part of the discussion that we will have in a week's time. It certainly applies to projected volumes of traffic in the traffic circle. One of the things that we have requested that they do is reforecast their projected wait times and what have you using a lower number. They're currently using 80,000. That's the number they came up with 3 years ago. I believe that something like 65,000 is actually closer to it. And in my discussions with some people at DOT, they came up with a number using a completely different methodology of 66,000. So I think we are closer to it, and to be determined when we get to next week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just, I'll just make 3 points to kind of add on to that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for highlighting that safety, no fatalities, are what's really important to our efforts. So, and I think that's, again, thanks for highlighting that. And also commend John. You know, he was waving the yellow flag, I'll say almost 2 years ago, about how the data that the DOT was using just correlated together and maybe some of the effects. And so many of what he was preaching a year ago, we're now seeing come to light, as well as some of those, how they just don't correlate together for the equal result that's in their final design. And John's highlighting that. Certainly when it comes to their efficiency that they've calculated as the result. And I think that some of the things that are coming to light also is the circle alone is not going to solve the traffic issues around Moore County. It's going to be more than that. So, thank you.
Thanks. Any comments from Barb or Kevin? Okay, I wanted to make one more point more relevant to the SMPO that met here last week. And what I found to be very interesting is the SMPO took the data that they have from 2023, the current data, and they, from that, determined what are the average time a trip takes currently. This is all current information, and how much traffic we have at the moment, cars and so forth. And they consider that the base year. And then they took the projections that they have for 2055, and they had two maps they had us look at. And what was fascinating is the 2055 map incorporated all the projects that are now underway or planned in the near term, which includes the circle, which includes the widening of Highway 5 and 211 and so forth. So all those were incorporated, and their projection they made was for 2055. It's 32 years later. And what was interesting is that in 2023, the average trip in this area would take about 10 minutes. That was the base year. I'm quoting from their information. And they say that when they factor everything in, the average trip would take 16.5 minutes. So that is an increase after we've made all these projected investments in the roadways here. That is an increase of 65% in what would be the length of time for an average trip. Now, if instead of it being increased by 65%, if it had been decreased by 65%, we would have shaved off 3.5 minutes, just to show you what the two extremes would be like. The one they're projecting, and if you take this similar number but reverse it, huge difference. So we would be spending all this money on an array of projects, and I think we should finish the construction that's underway on all these roads, because I think they'll make a difference in both traffic patterns and travel time. But we can't sort of deceive ourselves that doing all those things is going to somehow reduce the travel time. So I think we would probably be better maybe focusing on other projects that we've yet to begin and take smaller bites and make smaller improvements around the community that people can see and that can be done for less money and in a shorter period of time. And then look at things and say, what big projects should we, really sink our teeth into? But I do believe that the data that they themselves have provided, and they took the maps. If you looked in the pilot ran both maps from 2023 to 2055, and the way the NCDOT does things, they have a thing called level of service, LOS. And the level of service goes from the level of service of A, letter A, to letter F. From the very best is A, and F is not very good. Level A is basically you've got the whole roadway to yourself, is the way I view it. And the other part is where the traffic is very deep. And they color-coded these maps. It was in the pilot. And they showed the different ratings from A to F. And what they showed is that in 2055, they color-coded much of the roads at the circle at E or F. So there was nothing to be improved upon. And that was their data. So I mention that because, one, it surprised me, and two, it's worth noting. If we're going to, one of the things we ought to be doing is following the data as best we can when we have data. And the data they looked at and put into this recipe was data that they collected from the towns and communities here in southern Moore County and in Moore County. We provided data, Southern Pines did, Aberdeen, all the communities. So anyway, I mention that because I just thought it was a significant surprise as I was preparing for the SMPO meeting last time.
Just one comment on that, you're right that it shows that the time of the average travel goes to 10 minutes or goes up 65%.
From to 10 to 60, yes.
What we don't have, though, is if they didn't do all those projects, how long would the average wait time be? So that's a number we
That's
don't
right.
have that
No,
presumably would be even longer.
right, could be. But that's the challenge. Are we taking on the right projects all the time, or are there better projects that would make a little more of an impact? But the projects that they're planning to do now increase the time by 65%. So, all right, go ahead. Any other comments or thoughts from council members? No. Hearing none. Other business, does anyone want to bring up any other topic at this moment before we can conclude the regular session?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
If I
Kevin,
may.
go right ahead.
You mentioned following the data, and following the very successful meeting between the Senior Advisory Committee and the Neighborhood Advisory Committee as a forum for data, and following the data, we realize that the SAC needs to truly understand the senior population here in Pinehurst before any recommendations or investments can be made. And we need to listen and find ways to listen carefully to our neighbors. One uniquely powerful listening tool is the AARP's Age-Friendly Community Survey. This is a nationally recognized, psychometrically validated survey used by over 900 municipalities across the nation, gathering meaningful data on issues such as healthcare, social connection, volunteerism, and many other factors that influence our ability to age in place. For Pinehurst, the survey would provide a statistically valid baseline measurement of how residents view our community today and what they believe will be important tomorrow. It would replace assumptions with data and help ensure that the recommendations we bring forward are grounded in the lived experience and priorities of our citizens. Accordingly, I would respectfully request the Council's permission to present an overview of the survey, its benefits, and the operational considerations associated with its potential implementation at the July 14th meeting. The more voices we hear, the clearer our picture becomes and the stronger our ability to ensure that Pinehurst remains a place where people can thrive at every stage of life.
Can I ask you, has this been presented to the full SAC, the data?
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't recall it myself, but at the,
Actually, if I could tag in, Kevin, I think there actually are two surveys involved here. This came out of the demographic subcommittee, and both Kevin and I sat in on that meeting, which would be the logical place to collect this. There is a survey that I think we would do as a village, probably staff would do, talking about what programs are we aware of, where we're not, a very high level, something that I would have had difficulty completing myself. And then there is a survey of individuals. And to gather, and one of the things that we talked about was not conflicting with or competing with the existing survey we do of all residents, but finding a way to target one to the over 50 or 55 population. And there, one of the advantages that the AARP will tabulate those results and give us those results, and I believe it was at zero cost.
Right.
They have an existing database and an existing survey. We can get a copy of that survey. The hope was to maybe consider this to go out near the end of the year, to get our survey, which I think has just gone in the mail a week or 10 days ago, get that completed and done, and then consider how to target that. But both Kevin and I said prior to actually embarking on that, we wanted to have that discussed at the council level. And that's just a slight nuance, that there really are two different documents.
So we would have a discussion on the overall AARP concept and any, I guess, national data they have now and so forth. But then we would be able to enlist them to do something Pinehurst specific at the end of the year. Is that what I heard you talk about?
Some
At no
customization, I
choice.
believe, that we could make. And
Oh, that sounds good. And it was at no cost to the community? Well, that sounds very good.
And they would do all the tabulations.
Okay. Okay, well, that sounds good.
But we'll come back, what I'd like to do is come back to you in 3 weeks with a complete view of this.
Okay.
So that we can deliberate.
That sounds fine to me. Any other comments?
consider this an FYI to be followed up with more detail.
All righty,
I-
sounds like a good idea.
Good, thank you. One other concern of mine is the fact that we received the red line version of the revised, modernized Code of Ethics 5 hours before the village council meeting. I think that was unacceptable performance by our village attorney. We had discussed most of what appeared in the red line in person 2 weeks ago. I don't understand why, with the village attorney knowing the cadence of our meetings, why this came in at the 11th and a half hour. And if this is going to be a recurring issue in terms of performance, I would have some real significant concerns about the ongoing relationship.
Well, I think that the edits were so minor. I didn't see them as a dramatic turn of events. It was shalls to should in a few places, in most places, in one punctuation mark I had. But I don't know if there was anything intervening that may have done that.
I
I'll turn
mean,
it for Doug.
Bluntly, he should have had it to us earlier. And I had sent it to him shortly after our last meeting and asked him to review and comment on it and make sure that it was aligned with what he thought. Yeah, we didn't get the comments back till today. Typically, I would have pinged him a few times last week, but I was not around, so that's why it came in so late.
Well, you shouldn't have to chase someone who is under contract to us, number one.
Agreed.
Who's a professional, number two. Number three, that the edits were minor, which is all the more reason they should have come back to us sooner. We weren't asking him to review the Magna Carta, right, but some wordsmithing on a code of ethics. And this really is concerning to me.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to share what was expressed tonight with him.
All right, thank you. Other comments? Okay, hearing none, why don't we take 5 minutes? If someone wants to move to
I
adjourn?
move to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's regather at 6:05 or